Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Akil Ahmed and today I'm here to talk about how to write research proposal for PhD admissions. Actually, I have been getting a lot of requests from students and aspirants to talk about writing research proposal for PhD admissions. That is why I decided to record this video and upload for you guys. So if you haven't subscribed my channel, please subscribe to my channel and share this video with everyone so everyone can get benefit of it. Okay, so without wasting much time, we will start. So what are we going to talk about today? Of course, you know the topic. It's writing a PhD research proposal, but what is the content? I haven't set out any content particularly for this session. So in general, you know that we are going to talk about this proposal. But before we move ahead, it's better to understand some fundamentals of research proposal. For example, knowing what is a research proposal. So research proposal is basically the intent of your interest in particular program, in particular research degree or particular PhD program. It's an academic document which is prepared to show that how you will conduct your research and what will be the research, what will be the objectives, and what will be the expected outcomes. And this research proposal is basically submitted for PhD admissions, is submitted to PhD admission committee and your supervisor, who's always part of such committees. So these people review your research proposal. Apart from this, you can get reviewed from your peers and other examiners. But of course, for PhD admission, it would go through PhD admission committee, which will review the research proposal and decide about your outcome. And research proposal is basically a plan of your studies or research that you will be conducting as a PhD or a doctoral student. So it basically describes in detail what will you study, what would be the research, and how would you do the research, and all these questions which I already raised before. And decisions by the admission committee are completely based on the quality of your research proposal. And it's very important to write a good research proposal to get into a certain PhD program at a particular university, and then it gets approved by the review board, which then allows you to enter into a particular research degree or doctoral program. So why is it important? Why is it important to write a research proposal? What is the significance of a research proposal? A research proposal can be said as a contract between you and your committee, and it serves as a protector for both of you. You address the admission committee about your research and all this, and you limit yourself to a particular area and to particular objectives. So it protects you. Say, for example, you stick to an area and you agreed in the beginning of the doctoral program or studies as a researcher, you agreed on particular objectives with the admission committee. So in future, if the admission committee wants to add the extra objectives, usually it is the case which can happen, because in the beginning it's difficult to finalize the objectives. The objectives can be changing throughout the period of time, but at least you will have a protection in terms of what is your area and what is your objective. And then it also protects the committee from the student, like from delivering a poor quality research and so on. Okay, so what are the essential ingredients of a good research proposal which make a research proposal appealing from the others and you get selected? It's always important to address and to know the issue, which is a key ingredient of any research proposal. So what problem do you want to address during your research stay as a researcher or as a PhD student? The issue, identification of the issue, is key element in any research proposal. And then research design. So once you identify the research issue, now the next step is how will you tackle this issue? What would be the steps what would be the design of your processes, and how will you solve this problem or solve this issue which comes into research design. And then what would be the contribution of your research, and how will it benefit the community and the project agency, which is project funding agency. So what would be the benefit? So these are the main essential ingredients of any research proposal. But research proposal is not only for the admission committee or the university or other stakeholders. You are the main stakeholders in a research study. So what research proposals will make you actually when you start writing or when you start thinking about it? So it helps you to outline the steps in your proposed research. So once you start thinking about the research proposal, you will think, okay, these are the steps which I need to take, these are the things which I should review, and so on. It will give you intellectual context. You will be able to show your intellectual context in a research proposal document that will help you to show what you have as a researcher, and it will make you creative, because once you start thinking about it, you will start thinking about innovation. So that will fire something creative in you, and that will help, and that will give you a chance to justify your research, the research goal that you have in your mind. It will help you think through your experiments while writing your research proposal, and also it will help you anticipate potential problems while thinking about the research proposal, and also the realistic timetable. So these are certain skills which will be incorporated when you will start thinking about your research proposal. So if you do not have these skills, once you will start writing research proposal, I hope this will be inside you and you will get used to get advantage of your skill, or this will develop in you. So now we move on to the main outline of today's talk. So mainly, as already mentioned, we will focus on different sections of research proposal. Here I will show you standard outline which is used for everyone. And remember one thing, a research proposal outline can be different for different areas, but a generic and standard outline will be same. But you have to follow the guideline or the criteria set by the admission committee when they publish their Ph.D. opportunity. Usually they write the guidelines how to write the research proposal. Usually for admission it is mainly 2 pages or 3 pages, so you have to think in that way that you can fulfill their demands while writing the research proposal. So guidelines, follow the guidelines, it's must, and outline can change, but I will show you a generic outline and standard outline that is used for writing research proposals. So of course the first part of any research proposal or research topic is title. Research project is title, and then you have abstract. This is optional, sometimes it's included, sometimes it's not. Then you go through introduction, then you include your literature review, and then you have research gap or hypothesis. Now the order also can be changed. You can put research gap or hypothesis before the literature review, hypothesis before the literature review, and then research gap after the literature review. And then you can also include aims and objectives, and you have to show your experimental methodology you are going to conduct at your research stay, and you can also include expected outcomes, finally the timeline and conclusion and the references. These are the generic outline elements for any research proposal. But as an initial research proposal for a PhD admission, many of these may not be required. For example, timeline, for example, you can say conclusion, for example, abstract. So these do not require for the initial research proposal, because when you start your PhD degree, you might have to write the research proposal again and defend it at the end of the year or at the end of the 6 months. So in that case you have to follow this outline. But for a PhD admission, you might not want to discuss about abstract, you might not want to show timeline and conclusion, but you must follow the guideline given by the admission committee during the publishing of any PhD position. So as I said, the outline can be a bit different depending on what is the area and what is the requirement. So you can see methods and data collection analysis. This is different from what I showed you previously. Ethical issues, some research areas require ethical issues, and then resources, then these are things which can be different. You can also see sometimes you need to write problem statement, and I would show the laser, it will help. And sometimes they ask for rationale and the context and the resources and support. So outline can be different in different cases, but as I mentioned earlier, for initial PhD position, for initial PhD admission, you just need to mention on title, background and introduction, aims and objectives, methodology, and expected outcomes, and then of course references. So let's start with the title. So basically, title is a mini abstract of your research proposal which describes your research area. It should be very clear and concise, of course, and title should be something which should attract the PhD admission review committee. But for many PhD positions in Italy or in other countries, or of course in Europe whole, titles are already defined, so you do not need to worry about titles are already defined. You just need to concentrate on other parts. As an example, I'll show you an example of intelligent resource allocation in optimization for 5G EdgeNet and enhancing spectral efficiency in QoS. This is an example of a title in wireless communication and 5G networks. So abstract, I already told you, it's optional, but it's beneficial. If you want to include, that will show a summary of your whole research proposal to the admission committee and help them understand what is coming in next. So, but it should be very concise and short, and as I already mentioned, it's not always required. You may want to include and you may not. So it's not necessary that you include in the initial research proposal. This is an example. It should be 7 to 8 lines for your abstract, should be enough. Then comes the problem statement. In my generic or standard outline, I did not talk about problem statement, but it's also dependent upon how you think about your research proposal. If you don't want to include it, it's okay. You can talk about research gap and aims and objectives. But if you really want to start with the problem statement, it should be quite specific, which should come from the literature, and you can include it, but it's not mandatory. But sometimes it helps. It also depends on the areas. Maybe in some cases like chemistry, biology, in other cases the problem statement is required, and it also helps, but it's not always the case. And what is the purpose? Purpose is to show the blueprint of your literature, what you have read from the literature. You see some problems. It's kind of same as a research gap, so it's just a way of writing, styling, and of course it's just a matter of using either research gap or the problem statement. So you should focus who would be in your review committee at the beginning, and you have to keep them on track. Like, you state this problem, but if we go ahead in your proposal, the content is quite different. So there must be a link between your problem statement and then introduction, background, and methodology, and then expected results. So you have to keep this thing in mind. Then comes the introduction. Introduction is important. It provides an overview of the research problem and the questions you are trying to address in your research as a doctoral student. And you go through various research papers. You can actually look at the existing research paper and try to read their introduction. How do they write an introduction? Get an idea from their way of writing, and then you can incorporate some of the material from their introduction and write in your introduction. But it should explain the context and background of the research topic. It should be clearly state the research objectives and the significance of the study. So these are 3 main points which you must consider while writing the introduction of your proposal. Then comes very important critical element of a research proposal is a literature review. So what is important to understand here is we take literature review as just a summary of what is existing state of the art. No, it's not like a summary. It should be a critical way of writing, a critical way of reviewing what is existing. You have to show some relevance of your hypothesis with an existing literature or the existing state of the art, and your literature you would show how it extends the previous work. Your hypothesis, your research idea, you must show how it extends the previous work which is existing. And also you want to show, okay, these are the mistakes, these are the research gaps in the previous literature, and I want to avoid those mistakes, and then move on to your goal. It should be unique to previously followed paths, your research hypothesis and all this, and your project. This is an important element. What is important to mention here, that some of the students just go through the research papers and copy paste the ideas and all this. This is not good, this is unethical, and this will not help you in getting that vision. You should read a research paper and then see what is the gap. Usually in the future work and after the conclusion, you would see what they have left to do in the future. You can choose as those points as a research gap and put into your literature review. Okay, we can take literature review as a funnel. Here, this is the whole area which reader knows, but what you want to show is just a specific area which is end of the funnel point, which reader does not know. So you must be quite specific about what you are going to do. It's not about talking whole area. No, you have to be very specific so that you can prove your hypothesis or your idea. In the beginning, you introduce the field. It's a broad focus. You talk about the field, but as you move on, you focus on certain aspects. For example, if I say resource management, 5G is a broad area, and I say, okay, AI-based resource management and 5G, it's a little bit specific area. But if I have to focus on a goal, on my research goal, on my topic, I would even go further and make it very narrow. For example, I say, okay, network slicing. In resource management or in 5G, I would say, okay, network slicing is a particular area which I want to focus. Now, from very broad, you become very narrow, and you have the research gap, and you analyze this research gap. So this is how you have to take into your mind while writing a research literature review in your research proposal. The purpose of this funnel point is a research question and hypothesis. So you can take it as a problem statement, as I've already discussed in the previous slides. Then comes aims and objectives. Yeah, sometimes they ask you to write the aims and objectives, but in the initial you can either write a research gap and then rephrase those research gaps into your aims and objectives. It's quite an easy, should be one sentence, but remember they will change throughout the time, because you cannot fit the fix in the beginning, so they will change. Don't worry about it. As you move on, it will keep changing. But of course, you should have it in mind. It should be time bound and should be achievable. So always keep that in mind. Then comes a very critical element which you need to consider. It's methodology. So methodology is how, or the steps that you will take to complete your research goal. So it can be a qualitative, it can be quantitative. You might need to do some experiments that you study. You might need to collect data using surveys, interviews, and so on. So how will you do it? You have to show that in your research proposal. You can write a paragraph about it, and then you can show this in a flowgraph, a flow chart, which is quite good for a reader who wants to see, okay, this guy knows that after this I will take this step and this step and this step, and that will be the outcome. That will really help you if you write methodology in a flow chart and a flow graph manner. In methodology, you can start with, okay, I will start with data collection, but how will you do that? And then what will you do with data collection? You do the next step and you show the link between them and all this. So you need to consider methodology as a flow graph, as a flow chart, and that will help you a lot in the research proposal. Then you can go to the expected outcomes in the after methodology. These are the outcomes or the results of your methodology that you expect. Okay, after doing this, I would be getting this. You can show in a positive manner. Your expectations should always be high. You can say, okay, after doing this, my results would be this, 99% accurate or what, but also should be realistic and should make sense. You can't say that, look, after doing this, I would make the unbelievable things. No, you have to be realistic, and you have to be logical in your expected outcomes, and you can show that these research gap will be filled using this method, and so on. If the project is already defined, the expected outcomes are always also defined, so you don't need to worry about it. But it's important to show, like in 4 lines or 5 lines in a bullet point, you show these are my expected outcomes. In that way, the review committee understands, okay, this candidate knows and he has some ground of what he wants to do. And then timeline for a 2-page or a 3-page PhD research proposal is not required in the initial state, but after joining the PhD, maybe you need to defend your proposal, so you must submit your timeline, and you can divide your objectives into small tasks in weekly and monthly and yearly manner, and it also keeps you on track if you make the timeline. But it's always required in PhD. As you move on with the time and as you progress, you have to show how would you do and how long will it take to do, because of course after all, PhD is a 3-year 4-year project, so you have to complete it. So it's important to have this timeline in mind. You can include into your proposal. I am sure that will help you, but it's not mandatory in the initial proposal. But if you include, I'm sure that will add something to your application. Then conclusion. It's again not mandatory for the initial proposal, but if it is included, like just a rephrasal of your abstract, it's good, and that will also help you. Then comes the references. So what you study in the literature part, you must cite them. It's ethical, and it's also important. You just cannot copy paste things from others and then you do not even cite them, give them an appreciation. You must be mentioning or citing those references. References should be from journals. You read an authentic journal, not journals which are like sometimes I'm forgetting the word, but not very local journals. You should read high impact factor journals. You should cite their work and show how they do and what research gap they have. And then the style of the bibliography or referencing, it can be IEEE, Harvard, or APA, but all the way through it should be consistent. You cannot use one at one point and other at one other point. So you can use different referencing tools such as EndNote, Mendeley, BibTeX if you are using LaTeX or Overlay for writing your research proposal. As I mentioned earlier, not mentioning the sources is unethical, and that will directly cancel your admission. So avoid plagiarism. Always identify the source and summarize useful points. Cut and paste is not allowed. It will not help you anywhere. I want to declare something, that this presentation was originally from University of Pretoria, but I edited this presentation to suit this talk and to help you understand the topic in a better way. And thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe my channel and share this with others so they can get some help. I hope you gain something